Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And today, what's on my mind is how religion and the occult really don't go together. It's a it's a loveless marriage. You know, it's a type of marriage where both people are dissatisfied and maybe they should get a divorce. And I say this because I watched a video of this girl and and she was working with the goddess Kali, but then she's also has this belief in what's really kind of popular like right now is this language of light, language of the angels. They're speaking language of light to maybe banish spirits or do healing. And then, and I'm like, where did the concept of language of light really come from? And if you do some of your research in the occult circles, and when I speak of occult, I don't think cult. Some secret group meeting with robes and chanting and taboo sacrifices. That I would call maybe pop culture or Hollywood and conspiracy theories. Cult, the occult, is hidden knowledge. So the moon is occultated when it's in its dark moon phase, which is when it's completely black. Then it actually moves into the new moon, which is just one little phase difference. It's still kind of hidden, but it's not completely black. Just like it's rare to have a full lunar eclipse, or it's okay, we won't get into that. But if it's hidden from view, it has been if it's beyond your sight, hidden from view, veiled in mystery, if it's a knowledge you just can't access, uh then it's occultated. So occultated is actually an astrological term. So when when one of the planets, like the moon, is hidden from view, it's occultated. Uh, a planet behind another planet is occultated. So that's kind of the meaning of occult, occult knowledge. So, do you see this thinking process going on? It's not about beliefs and the experiences to validate those beliefs, which continue looping back into those beliefs. And the thoughts really aren't your identity. So, uh, where religion, you have a certain set of beliefs, usually in an invisible God, uh, you know, invisible realms, invisible like heaven, invisible like hell. And it requires you to believe or have faith and then put your unexplained experiences into that limited framework. So you might have a little bit of expanded consciousness, and you might, I really work yourself up in some way and see an angel, what you think is an angel, and then like it could be a mental breakdown, it could be a hormonal imbalance, it could be stress from work, um, it could be super excitability, it can be drug induced into these hallucinogenic states, and on very subtle levels, you know, you your routine was thrown off. You're experiencing some type of micro shock, and then, you know, your internal world gets projected outward and you're having visions and hallucinations. You're not now a saint. You're not now being visited by angels. You're not the chosen one. You're not select. So in religion, you can be special by being spiritual. You can be, because like when you think about like religions, there's a prophet and there's saints, there's do-gooders, and there's this belief that you can work off your karma or become a better person. You can evolve and become a chosen ones. You can get a reward. You can be blessed in the next life. You can go to a higher level in the heavenly realms. So you get closer to God and the abundance. So it's really passive selfishness. And people like eat up religion because it gives you structure and focus, and you can really fuse your identity to a system, and then you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm good, I'm blessed. In a backhanded way, you get to judge others. It helps you satiate the fear of death, and it helps you satiate the truth of not looking at yourself and truly working on yourself. And so religion has a lot of negative incentives to be saintly, to be prophetic, to be special, um, to not really develop, to not know who you are, to not accept the low place on the totem pole in the universe that we exist, to not embrace psychology, to not embrace forward progressive, like it's resistance. There's a lot of negative benefits towards having a strong belief system. You think it's shaping a character, a good moral structure. You think it's justifying all this horrible behavior. Um, not saving the planet, over consuming, having too many children, not living within your means, the continuation of materialism, and stupidity. So I feel like, yeah, I'm talking negative. This is my channel. And so, on one level, I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what your attitude is. I don't care if you like me or hate me. Because I'm sharing my perspective on religion and how it's contaminating true spiritual science, the occult, how it's contaminating the development of opening up your mind to new horizons, new plateaus, new capabilities uh, within yourself. And so we have a lot of aspiring people who want to open up and evolve. And we don't realize a lot of these roots of the New Age movement, of the awakened woke movement, and all this coming into your personal power, getting metaphysical, becoming a superhero with metaphysical abilities. We don't realize this has roots, ancient roots, in like ascension magic is core to Egyptian magic. Like, why do you think they have the temples with harmonic chambers and chakra development? So chakras is very Egyptian. Chakra, energetic, harmonic technology through sound. Sound bathing, not with the singing bowls, but literally with being in these smaller set of pyramid structures that capture sound, that basically reconfigure your cells and extend your life. So here we are looking at Egyptians that are working on immortality. In your And so there were very, very practical methods. Go into this chamber that has stair-stepped vaulted ceilings that capture sound. you know to bathe yourself in a vibration and a frequency where disease doesn't exist, or if it does, it gets purged out through sound. So there's a very so we have to think humans are lazy by nature. So why go to the efforts of building a pyramid? It's not to show off. It's not to intimidate another tribe. It's not to bury a great king. It's obviously something more. Why go to the trouble of even having a civilization if, there or even advance a civilization? It's not normal. It's far easier to fall down, to go into entropy, to go into negativity than it is to build up. And here we see a civilization popping up and advancing itself. And you have to think of these monuments as an extension of the people collectively and on an individual basis. So, on an individual level, we see a very artistic and mathematical society. And why would an artistic mathematical society be steeped in superstitions? They're not. So we see practical technology of a highly advanced metaphysical level being applied, and a society that's thriving. So if you're a little bit about Egypt, it basically rose and fell about 3 times. And the truth of Egypt is it could be far much older than we realize, and could have actually been built, those founding structures, by a whole nother civilization that was before Egyptians. Um, so there's a lot, but it's basically a monument of human potential in many ways. But let's kind of get back to this. So, from a Western point of view, our reasoning for these large structures would maybe be for burial, would maybe be for temple worshiping. And then our limited scientific view would be to gather the people and create some vibrations and move large objects. The reality of it is we don't know. and and so part of it will be remain a mystery. This And so we call it Western Mystery School and Western teachings and Mystery School teachings. One reason, because it sounds a lot better than occult, because it got such a negative, Christians hate that, you know. Uh, it, so, but in the end, we are all fascinated by the things we don't know. And so this is a huge difference between a religious New Age mindset and I would call it a 3D matrix mindset. Matrix mindset is A plus B equals C. Thank God for C. We're right. This is the way it is. And it keeps affirming an established order. Religion affirms an established order of thought and beliefs, which then reflect back on you and affirms your safety in your little box, in your comfort zone. Where the occult, actually, in the spirit of the occult, kind of does the opposite. It goes, we do not know, we may never know, and let's embrace the unknown and do things differently. We're going to have to do things differently. And I feel like religion says, let's keep doing things the same. And trying to rationalize and fit into an outdated model something that's beyond it. So the occult recognizes something beyond it, but doesn't call it God. It doesn't call it the direction that we're going in its fullness. It just says unless you're doing the ascension part of occult, which is let's ascend, let's evolve. To There is no end purpose. The end isn't defined. Where I think in religion it's defined. It's get back to home base, start at square one, be back with God. So it's almost like a learn to throw yourself back by moving yourself forward into being more spiritual, being more right, being more good, being more blessed, being a better servant to the world, all these great ideals. And so I feel like we can't get away from ideals, and we also can't get away from faith and belief, but we can go about it in very different ways. So, what is your real reason for studying or wanting to know more? So, I feel like you might start off with some like religious views that might start you in the direction of wanting to know more. And then you might also have some shamanic or so. And since I just brought up the word shaman and shamanic, this is the abilities we have within ourselves. You can awaken your inner shaman, your multidimensional self. It doesn't mean you're more spiritual. You're just tapping a potential that's been offline. Now maybe you want to do something about it, or maybe you want to study and manifest or materialize something, give back to this world. So, drug escapists, people, bliss, pleasure seeking people, uh, devotees, religious zealots, I think all fall down when it comes to the occult. When it comes to the long path, the there's a lot of work, and if you're not willing to put in the time, then you fall. And so you have to have a real love for the occult, and you actually, it's not something to be, it's something you are. So if you're the type of person who's either very logical but believes the creative and abstract, spiritual, and poetic fits into that and adds to it, then if you want to develop your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere, your subconscious and your conscious, if you want to blend these two things together and put them in balance, then you might have the mind for an occultist. If you're always just trying to prove the mystical, the visions, the gods, the images moving from your heart, everything is one. We're all, in the end, it's all good. The universe is in charge. God's in charge. Angels are in charge. You're more on the religious, spiritual, new age end. And go swim in your ocean, because you're going to get disappointed. You're going to have to work hard and probably have to read 50 books and launch experiments. Your beliefs are going to be challenged, and your goal is different. Your goal is your ascension and being the light and the love. And is that a wrong goal? No. But then the occultist is going to have a healthy dose of doubt, criticism, analyzation, and it's going to act like a sword and chop up your fantasy that you're living out as a creative spiritual being. New Agers, you're creative, you're a spiritual being who is probably just wanting to tap into that more and more. So people who have it, so let's talk a little bit more about culture, religion, identity, and like, because how does tradition, like the Tibetan people have their own spiritual mystical system. It's a part of their heritage and their tradition. And Native Americans have it, and African have it, like Caribbean, South American, they have this beautiful blend. You know, Palamayumbe, Santeria, Voodoo, Voodoo, Hoodoo, all these things, they are tied to their culture and their people, and so it's part of their identity structure. Um, and so I put that, even though it has magical elements, it really doesn't serve the unknown, or it's not really a science. So, and so it's not exactly occult, nor is it Western mystery. It's not traditional Western mystery. Um, so it's all good, especially when you're, and I would say, especially when you're working with magic. So to work with the occult does not mean you have to work with magic. So atheist, you can be an atheist, and it might even be preferred to be an atheist and work into the occult. To be definitely scientific minded could definitely go far in the occult. And what's the pendulum swings both ways. If you get too polarized, all those advantages can turn into a disadvantage. You can be rational, logical, scientific, atheist, highly critical, and like a sword, you'll be able to dissect and look at things at a microscopic level and maybe even a macro. But then that kills what this polarized new age fusion, modern shamanism, whatever, no rules, no understanding, anything goes, all love and light. The pendulum swung the opposite way. So the liberation, the devotion. So like people are like, well, religion's really not cool. And I don't want to sing Hari Hari Krishna, Hari Hari. I want to instead sing love and light, or I'm kind of a feminist, but I'm not a feminist, and so I love Gaia, and I'm kind of a hippie, but I'm really kind of a Christian. It's like, you see how this is like really open, chaotic, and abstract, but it's all inclusive, and it's moving towards oneness, and and all these good things that sound good. I would call them maybe like humanities, because it's humanitarian and it's about tribe and collective, being collective, and these are all really great things. But the pendulum has swung so far, we've now sacrificed logic, reason, order, structure, the science, the purpose. Like, we can get lost. The goal becomes vague. Love and God are one and the same thing, a big switcheroo. And I've talked about this before and probably deleted 10 videos, posted and deleted like throughout the years, who knows. But again and again, it keeps coming up. And then we polarize into cliques, into tribes, even within a group. Like, I just had to sacrifice a bunch of friends because I came into my heart power. I'm working the tree of life, the Kabbalah, the universal system of the mystics of, and I met my holy guardian angel, and I discovered he's always been with me, and it's the creative life force that's been fueling all my artwork. And I've also discovered that it's core to me. It was never separate from me. And so as I experienced it on the outer, I was experiencing it on the inner, and as I developed it on the inner, I experienced it on the outer. So as above, so below, as within, so without, is the Hermetic principle. It's the axiom, it's the mantra, and it is basically the scientific formula to understand all things hidden and all things visible. Um, so what the New Ager wanted to do was not be religious. A New Age movement comes out of spiritualism, but spiritualism a, came out of religion and a little bit of occult. But they didn't like the occult because it went against their beliefs. And they still want to do folk magic. So in the occult, your identity kind of gets sacrificed. Where in spiritualism, you can make an identity and a career. You can say, I'm a medium, I talk to spirits. And so it's kind of this meeting ground, middle ground. And but then people, so let's not use a Ouija board, let's do table tipping. Let's not say we're possessed, let's say we're channeling. We don't really want to go to Tibet and learn Tibetan and spend 20 years at a mystic's feet in high altitude. So let's just say we're channeling a mystic and he's working directly with us, and let's put out some books. Let's read a little bit of Eastern philosophy. And then we'll say, and so it became a melting pot. And the New Age movement is what birthed out of that melting pot. Because people didn't want to be so associated with religion and rules, but then they also didn't exactly want to be science, and science really wasn't good. There was Newtonian science. If you can't see it, it doesn't exist. If it doesn't follow the laws of gravity, so science was a prescription. And so that really didn't help. So everything that a New Ager and a spiritualist can do, shamans do. And do it better, way better, if they're truly shamans. And everyone has shamanic abilities. So everyone can do folk magic and do some shamanism. And so New Age is a watered down version of tapping into your own personal relationship with life, the vitality force, and in a weird way, the mysteries. But they're not, but it just kind of leaves it in that boat. And so to supplement this kind of New Age divorced spiritualism, divorced religion, we add a little bit of psychology, and then we tell our own new myth, the myth of a future of evolution, the myth of aliens helping us. Once again, it's an outside invisible source that can't be verified. God forbid if it was all within you. That's blasphemy. To go, you know what? I think actually God is within me. And all the aliens and all this extraterrestrial and this advanced technology, that potential is a singularity within me. That's blasphemy. To say, you know what? I don't need guides. All that is in me. As above, so below, as within, so without. That's blasphemy to every mystical faith that's usually charging money, every cult. So now let's talk about the cult, aka the congregation of a religion, and the mass brainwashing and the forced peer pressure you have to join a church or a belief system. You are peer pressured into class. School is a religion. Your corporation is a religion. Our country is under the religion of work, and it worships the dollar and materialism. And the more you gain it, the better you are. This is still religion. It's the same structure. So we're like doing the same old act. In the occult, you don't get brownie points. You don't get rewarded like that. Your reward is kind of more personal knowledge on how things work. So if you want to understand the inner workings of a divination system like tarot, you will apply occult principles, knowledge, formulas, which would be as above, so below, as within, so without. How do these numbers reflect events? How do events reflect numbers? How do I come to the realization that we're living in a matrix? Okay, we'll just call this maybe part 1. I gotta take a break, and it's 30 minutes in, so we're good. We'll push pause on this